Okay, Harry Brown is kind of the across the pond, more violent version of Gran Torino. In this one, you have Michael Caine, who plays a ex-Marine widower whose best friend is violently beaten and killed by a group of kind of like local hoodlums. Of course, this being done in Europe, in England, they're called hoodies. And when you're retired, they call you a pensioner. All that aside, he then goes on the fairly violent rampage to essentially kind of help take back the neighborhood, as well as take out some of the pretty violent drug dealers and the people who actually beat up and killed like his only friend. This one is definitely a lot more violent than Gran Torino, and you'll get a lot more background on the actual hoodlums themselves than the ones that they actually do. There's some scenes of, I guess I'll just say, light torture, because he does essentially capture one of the guys and does some physical and some psychological torture to him. Nothing really over the top. We're not talking it's like Taken or anything, but you know, where Gran Torino was a lot more focused on the Clint Eastwood character, this one is focused almost more on the villains, and you learn enough about Michael Caine in these little snippets in between that you realize he is probably one of the very, very few people you should probably mess with when it comes to the pensioner, or as we'd call them, retired here in the States. This is actually a very, very solid movie. They throw in some bits and pieces here and there, especially towards the end when essentially a full-scale riot happens in the area. And then you get to find more details about some of the other characters. You do have to listen a lot to the dialogue, which from some of the United States, it's hard to do with the Queen's English sort of dialogue. I've seen enough of these movies that are filmed in the Queen's English that bits and pieces of words here and there are kind of a little more difficult to get a hold of. And that's just because we're not used to hearing that sort of dialect and that sort of language. But undeniably, I have to say, if you liked Gran Torino, this is a more violent version of it. It takes certain beats, and that you have the older gentleman and his surrounding area has entirely just gone to crap. And then as he witnesses, further acts of violence, he actually kind of decides he's had enough and then kind of goes pseudo-vigilante on them. All in all, a very well done movie. I almost actually want to see Liam Neeson, Clint Eastwood, and Michael Caine in some sort of movie where they just go around and beat up people roughly my age.